Hello everyone, welcome to session 3. This is the last session in the plant kingdom. In this session, we are going to be discussing about pteridophytes and gymnosperms. Dear students, pteridophytes, pteris, which means ferns, phytes means plants, totally call it as fern plants. These pteridophytes include horsetail and ferns. See, horsetails, which means one of the plant in pteridophytes that is called equistum. That equistums resembles like horsetail, andre kudre bala tara kanutte. And these pteridophytes are used for medicinal purpose, and also as soil binders, Medicinal purpose andre the salaginula is commonly known as sanchivini, which is used for medicinal purpose to cure wounds and some uterine disorder and internal injuries, etc. Soil binders, which means soil binders are the materials which are applied on the soil surface temporarily prevent the water. But here in pteridophytes, the plants form dense thick mat on the soil surface to tightly bind the soil by the help of roots, so to prevent the soil erosion. And they are also frequently grown as ornamental. See, because of the pteridophytes are bright in color, so that's why these pteridophytes frequently grown as ornamental. And these pteridophytes are found in cool, damp and shady places. See, dear students, in bryophytes, the plant body of bryophytes is called gametophyte. But here, the plant body of pteridophytes is called sporophyte. Sporophyte, which means spore producing body. Okay. See, the sporophyte is differentiated into true roots, stems and leaves. Even these organs possess well differentiated vascular tissue. And pteridophytes are the first terrestrial plant to possess vascular tissues like xylem and phloem. Evolutionarily, these are the first terrestrial plant to possess vascular bundles or vascular tissues like xylem and phloem. The sporophyte bear sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages is called sporophyll. Okay. See, in plant body enanta ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ, sporophyte ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. So these sporophyte produce some leaf-like structure. This is called sporophyll. So these sporophyll contain sporangia. See, the leaves in pteridophytes are small is called microphylls. We can observe in salaginula. If the leaves are large, is called macrophylls. We can observe in ferns, and which means pteridophytes, some of the pteridophytes plants. Okay, the plant body of pteridophytes is called sporophyte that bears sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages, that is called sporophyll. See, the sporophyte produce sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages. It is called sporophyll. See, this is called sporophyll. This sporophyll contains number of sporangia. sporangia. So this is called sporangia. This is called sporangia. Sometimes this sporophyll forms a distinct compact structure is called cone or strobili. A distinct compact structure is called cone or strobili. Okay. See, the sporophylls contain numbers of sporangia. These sporangia release number of spores. By the process of meiosis takes place in microspore mother cell. ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ಸ್ಪೊರಾಂಜಿಯಾ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಸ್ಪೋರ್ ಮದರ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ microspore mother cell. So this microspore mother cell undergoes meiosis to produce microspores or spores. So these spores germinate to give inconspicuous, small but multicellular, free-living, photosynthetic thalloid gametophyte is called prothallus. See, this strobili or cone we can observe in two species, that is Selaginella and equistum. ಈ ಎರಡು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಈ ಸ್ಟ್ರೋಬಿಲೈ ಅಥವಾ ಕೋನ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ದಟ್ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ ಜರ್ಮಿನೇಟ್ ಟು ಗಿವ್ ಇನ್ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿಷಿಯಸ್ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಬಟ್ ಮಲ್ಟಿಸೆಲ್ಯುಲರ್ ಫ್ರೀ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್ ಫೋಟೋಸಿಂಥೆಟಿಕ್ ಥಾಲಾಯ್ಡ್ ಗೆಮೆಟೋಫೈಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಪ್ರೋಥಾಲಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಅಂದರೆ is giving gametophyte. Okay, so these gametophyte requires cool, damp and shady places to grow. Because this restricted requirement and need for water for fertilization. Then the gametophyte bear both male and female sex organ. The male sex organ is called antheridia and the female sex organ is called archegonia. So in gametophytic, say we know about photosynthetic thalloid gametophytic, that is called prothallus. So these gametophyte bears both male and female sex organ, that is called antheridia and archegonia. The male sex organ is called antheridia, the female sex organ is called archegonia. So both are produce gametes. The antheridia produce anthrozoites, and the archegonia produce single egg, which means female gametophyte. Finally, these anthrozoites comes contact with egg fused to form zygote by the help of water. So this is called fertilization purpose. So after fusion of gametes to form zygote. So thereafter formation of multicellular well differentiated sporophyte. See, this is the dominant phase in pteridophytes. In majority of pteridophytes, all the spores are similar kind. Such plants are called homospores. ಅಂದರೆ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಸ್ ಒಂದೇ ಥರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. This is called homo means same. But some genera like Selaginella and Salvinia produce two different kinds of spores. So this is called heterosporous. So this is called heterosporous. Hetero, which means different. Hetero, which means different. Okay. In majority of the pteridophytes, all the spores are of similar kind. Such plants are called homosporous. Homo, which means same. Homo means same. But in some genera like Salvinia and Selaginella produce two different kinds of spores. So this is called heterosporous. Hetero, which means different. See, two different spores, which means microspore, which means small spore, and macrospore, which means large. Okay. Majority of the pteridophytes, all the spores are of similar kind. Such plants are called homosporous. Homo means the same, but some genera like Salvinia and Selaginella, they produce two different kinds of spores. This is called heterosporous, which means different. The both megaspore and microspore germinate to give both male and female gametophyte respectively. Yes, the both microspore and megaspore gives both male and female gametophyte respectively. See, in these plants, the female gametophyte is retained in the parental sporophyte for variable periods, and the development of zygote into embryo takes place within the female gametophyte. See, this is the precursor to the seed habitat and considered an important step in evolution. Yes. The pteridophytes further classified into four classes. The first one is Psilopsida, the second one is Lycopsida, the third one is Spinopsida, the fourth one is Pteropsida. The Psilopsida includes Psilotum, the Lycopsida includes Selaginella and Lycopodium, the third one is Spinopsida, which includes Equistum, and the fourth one is Pteropsida. It includes Dryopteris, Teres, and Adiantum. These are all about characteristics of pteridophytes. Yes, the next one is Gymnosperms. Gymnos, which means naked. Sperma, which means seeds. See, the gymnosperms are plants in which the ovules not enclosed by ovary wall. Dear students, we know about basic information about fertilization in flowering plants. After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds, then the ovary develop into fruit. But here, in these gymnosperms, the seeds are naked, which means the ovules not enclosed by ovary wall remain exposed both before and after fertilizations. These plants include medium-sized trees, tall trees, and some shrubs. One of the gymnosperm, the gained red hood, that is called sequoia. It's called sequoia. Sequoia gigantea anta karitivi. That is called sequoia, one of the tallest tree species. The roots in gymnosperms generally taproot system. The roots are taproot system, which means primary, secondary, and tertiary. See, Roots in some genera have fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza. Example, we can observe in Pinus. Pinus tree roots nalli navu mycorrhiza association nodabodu. Mycorrhiza is the fungal association between both fungi and plant roots. And in some other plants, which means cycas. So the cycas plant shows some specialized roots. It is called coralloid roots. Why it is called coralloid roots? See, because these roots resembles like corals, coral reefs, corals. So these roots are associated with nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. Okay, generally the roots in Gymnosperm taproot system, and some plants have fungal association in the form of mycorrhiza, example Pinus, and in some plants like cycas shows some specialized roots are called coralloid roots, which means which resembles like corals, and these roots are associated with nitrogen fixing cyanobacteria. Next, the stem. Stem is unbranched in cycas, but branched in Pinus and Cedrus. And the leaves are simple or compound. See, simple, which means the lamina is undivided. Compound, which means the lamina are divided to form number of leaflets. In cycas, we can observe the leaves are pinnately compound. Pinnately compound, which means the leaflets arranged entire midrib or entire rachis. That is called pinnately compound leaves. So in these plant, which means cycas plant, the leaves persist to few years. ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು 3-4 ವರ್ಷ ತನಕ ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಲೀವ್ಸು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಉಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. And the leaves in gymnosperms well adapted to withstand extreme temperature, humidity and wind. And some plants in gymnosperms shows xerophytic characters. Example in conifers, which means the plants are cone like shape. Example Pinus. See, in Pinus we can observe the leaves are modified into needle like structure. To reduce the surface area, and presence of thick cuticle, which means waxy layer, and presence of sunken stomata, so to reduce the water loss. So these are all xerophytic characters in gymnosperms. Example conifers, Pinus. See, the gymnosperms are heterosporous, which means they produce microspore and megaspore. The gymnosperms are heterosporous, which means produce two different kinds of spores, both microspore and megaspore. So two different kinds of spores produced within the sporangia that are born on the sporophyll, which is spirally arranged to form distinct compact structure, is called cone or strobili. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ we can observe both male and female cone. Okay, for example, if the cone or strobili it produces two different kinds of spores within the sporangia that are born on the sporophyll, which are spirally arranged to form strobili or cone. Yes, if the cone bears microsporophyll and microsporangia or microsporangium. It's also called microsporangium or microsporangia. So this is called microsporangiate. This is called microsporangiate, or it's also called male cone. It's also called male cone. See, I will draw the male cone. See, this is the male cone, which means microsporangiate. Okay, so this microsporangiate bears number of microsporophyll. So this is called microsporophyll. Okay, so I will draw the structure of microsporophyll. Yes, see, this is the male cone. It's also called microsporangiate. This microsporangiate has number of microsporophyll. So these are all microsporophyll. Here I draw that one microsporophyll. This one microsporophyll has number of microsporangia. So this is called microsporangia. Microsporangia. Okay. So within the microsporangia, presence of microspore mother cell. That microspore mother cell undergoes meiosis to produce microspores. To produce microspores are also called pollen grains. Are also called pollen grains. Yes, if the strobili or cone bears microsporophyll and microsporangia called microsporangiate is also called male cone. Microsporangiate anta kuda karitivi, male cone anta kuda karitivi. Okay, ee male cone nalli enide number of microsporophyll ide. Okay, see, this is called male cone. Okay, ee male cone nalli number of microsporophyll alli ಒಂದು microsporophyll ತಗೊಂಡಾಗ we can observe within the microsporophyll presence of number of microsporangia. See, within the microsporangia presence of microspore mother cell, that microspore mother cell undergoes meiosis to produce microspores. Is also called pollen grains. Similar to this, if the cone bears megasporophyll along with ovule is also called megasporangium or megasporangia. Megasporangia or megasporangium are called macrosporangiate. Are called macrosporangiate. It's also called female cone. It's also called female cone. Okay, if the cone bears megasporophyll and along with ovule is also called megasporangia or megasporangium. Is called macrosporangiate or female cone. See here, the cone see, this is the megasporophyll. This megasporophyll has megasporangium. It is also called ovule. It's also called ovule. So this is called megasporangium or megasporangia. Okay, so this is called megasporophyll. Okay, the both male and female strobili produced on same tree. Example, pinus. But in case of cycas, the both male and female cones produced in different plant. See, these diagrams are only for your reference to understand the concept, not given in NCERT, so no need to draw in annual examination of first PU. Yes, now let's discuss the structure of megasporangia or LS of ovule of cycas. See, inside the megasporangia presence of a nutritive tissue that is called nucellus. The nucellus is covered by covering layer or protective layer is called integuments. One of the cells in nucellus differentiated to form megaspore mother cell. Differentiated to form megaspore mother cell. So, this megaspore mother cell undergoes meiosis to form 4 haploid megaspore. Among 4 haploid megaspore, one of the functional megaspore is developed into female gametophyte. So, this female gametophyte bears 2 or more sex organ, that is called archegonia. Here, fertilization process includes the microsporangia release microspores. So, these microspores carried by air currents to reach the mouth of ovule, that is called, or opening of the ovule, that is called micropyle. Then the pollen grain release pollen tube, that pollen tube carries male gametes. That male gametes is fused with female sex organs or archegonia to form zygote. Later the zygote is developed into embryo, then the ovule is developed into seed. The seed is not enclosed by any ovary wall. These are all about gymnosperms. Dear students, in this last session we have discussed about both pteridophytes and gymnosperms. Pteridophytes are the first terrestrial plants to possess vascular tissues, xylem and phloem, and these are all fern plants. And the gymnosperms, gymnos means naked, sperma means seeds. So, in these plants the ovules are not enclosed by a ovary wall. Here the plant produces both male and female cone, and the male and female cone, the male cone release pollen grains or microspores to reach female cone of megasporangium to fertilize to form zygote, and the ovule developed into seed. Thank you.